My name's Seth. I'm the host of the Money Game podcast. So we cover things like success, financial intelligence, and legacy among athletes, as well as like industry professionals in the business of basketball. So I'm curious. Before we get into kind of the business side of basketball, I'm just kind of serious. I'm sorry, curious. I want to start by learning more about kind of your journey. So I guess my first question is how did your journey in basketball begin? Was basketball always something you saw yourself being involved in professionally?
Uh, yeah, well, yes, it was. It was always a dream of mine. It was something that I followed very closely as a kid, but the way I get into it, I kind of stumbled into it, and the moral of the story I always tell people is you never know who's watching. Um, I was in, I grew up in Roslyn, New York. It's on Long Island, just probably 40 minutes outside Manhattan. And long story short, there was a high school player here in Roslyn, in my hometown. This was like 2008, 2009. His name was George Beeman, and he was a great player, but he wasn't getting a Division I scholarship, and I knew that he should and could, and so I stepped in to help him, and but I had already started a career. I had my own consulting business at that time, and so this was in like my early 30s, and that's when my career pivot really happened. I just fell in love with the process of helping George. He got a scholarship at Manhattan in Division I and went on to score 2,000 points and take them to an NCAA tournament. And
Wow.
he was an incredible college player, and he actually had a nice pro career. And so that was the genesis of me seeing that my scouting eye was on, and that I had convictions on a player that could translate. And then some people from Roslyn heard about what I did for George, and they were um, starting Basketball City, which was in Lower Manhattan. It's a big facility with 6 courts, and they came to me and they said, "BJ, we heard what you did for George, and did you ever think about becoming an agent? And we just took this investment stake in Basketball City, and maybe we could put this all together and build an agency together." And that's what we did. And within, I just fell in love with the process helping George. It wasn't about money, but everything I had learned up to that point in sales and marketing and promotion really helped me get the deal done for George. And then shortly thereafter, within a couple months, we had our first NBA guy was Vernon Goodridge with the Warriors, and we started to do our showcases at Basketball City, and the rest is history. That was
Sure.
20 years ago, almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
What kind of experience early in your career shaped the way you kind of view the game today?
Well, that's a great question. How do I take that on? I mean, look, the way we did it, we didn't get lottery picks. We really had to identify talent and develop it on our own. And that was the one thing that really, kind of getting over that chasm of getting the NBA teams to respect your portfolio of guys and take your call. And it's something you have to build year over year. It doesn't happen right away. Like we were lucky with our first group. Vernon really broke through out of LaSalle, and it gave me credibility. I mean, he was a monster. You could go YouTube Vernon Goodridge in Springfield in the G League, but this guy was a 6'10", jump over the backboard athlete,
Big guy.
elite shot blocker, NBA rim protector, lob catcher, just ridiculous lob catch radius. And so Vernon really gave me a lot of credibility with NBA teams. And I think that's the most important thing that you learn when you're starting is you have to if they're going to take your call and continue to take your call, you have to continue to put talent in front of these guys. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. So really getting started is about grinding, going to summer league, going to Portsmouth, going to the G League showcase, going to all these things where you can recruit the players on the one side, but then also network with the teams at these events.
Okay. What were some of the biggest like challenges you think you faced like early on?
Um, I mean, I think that was really it. I think it's tough when you don't have the network, right? You have to build the network. You have players and you have teams, and you have to be able to connect the dots, right? And so
Sure.
it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Like the better players that you have, you're going to attract the higher level teams to come and recruit those guys, right?
Sure.
And so I think it's sort of just like, again, you have to start somewhere, and I was able to get, I think a lot of people heard in New York City what I did with George, and that was a leg up for me because people knew it wasn't about money. I was really about like helping this young man get a college situation, and that there was no NIL back then, trust me.
Sure.
So this was not about money. I wasn't an agent. I just was doing a favor for a kid from my neighborhood. And I think a lot of people heard that, and so they were willing to talk to me. But then you have to have players. If you don't have players, again, you cannot get those teams on the phone. So it's really about building that critical mass.
Is there like a specific like risk you had to take or like make a difficult like decision to continue your like career?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was probably, my early 30s, I was doing really well for myself. And I had my own consulting business. I started in like software tech when I got out of college, and I was in the middle of like the internet bubble and the boom and the
Sure.
bust.
Yeah.
And so, but making a career change in your early 30s, is a very risky thing. And I had two young daughters at the time, and so, yeah, that was a huge risk to take this leap. But it was something that I loved. I had always been really passionate about sports in general, but basketball in particular. And like I said, I really fell in love with the process of helping George, all of the skill set that I learned from the tech space and bringing it into the basketball world about how to sell and how to create leverage and how to market. Like I said, I just fell in love with that process, and I felt that it was something that I could be really good at. But until you do it, it's a huge risk to take that
Sure.
leap at that age.
What did you do before an agent? Just out of curiosity.
So I started with, when I got out of college, I started with a company called Net Perceptions, and it went public in like 99 or 2000 in the middle of that internet boom with the stock market. And basically it's the software technology. If you've ever been on Amazon, everything that's personalized for you as a user, the Net Perceptions engine was behind Amazon, crunching numbers in real time so that I could make I could let Amazon know as the Net Perception software, based on this user's purchase history, based on this user's click through history, different things that they've, thumbnails that they've enlarged. That tells me that it's an indication of likeness, right? So what the software would do is it could in real time identify like-minded users on Amazon and extrapolate from one profile to the other to give Amazon the type of intelligence that, hey, this particular user is very likely to click on this product. And it's based on all of this different data and information that now Amazon was able to collect, where in the past, like the traditional advertisers didn't have the key clicks for that, right? So it was a huge thing because everybody wanted to know what Amazon was doing and how they
Sure.
were, personalizing the experience. And so Net Perceptions was the sort of the brain in the jar behind Amazon. And that was my first foray into software tech. And it was an amazing time. And I happened to be with like a huge company that was really hot. So it was working really well for me. And so that's why I say that changing gears and coming into basketball was a huge move.
What did you learn during those early years that still influence like how you work with athletes today?
Really good questions, man. Good deep questions. I got to think about it. Good.
That's all right.
No, I think there's fundamental things that stay true throughout the life cycle. I think that, I mean, we're in New York, and one thing we say is we're straight shooters. A lot of guys don't like the truth. I say you can't handle the truth. Was that A Few Good Men?
Sure.
Jack Nicholson. No, you got to tell guys the truth, and sometimes it's tough. I mean, hey, the NBA is not there right now. You know, the two-way contract is not there right now, whatever the case may be. And a lot of agents, I think, don't want to give the bad news because they want to keep the relationship. But the truth is, when you're honest with guys about where they are and you're doing a good job and you're promoting and you're creating opportunities, it's much more helpful to them to be honest with them. And that goes for strengths and weaknesses. Teams will tell you, hey, this guy's doing great at X. He needs to improve at Y. And if you don't give that feedback loop, if you don't close that loop with the players, you're doing them a disservice. So I think what I learned early on is you had to have difficult conversations. Sometimes you have to be willing to have those conversations. And I think guys respect that and they appreciate it. They may not always like what you're saying, but if you're shooting them straight as an arrow on what the feedback is from the league,
Sure.
it helps them make good decisions in their career.
What attracted you to like athlete representation? Was it like a
Like
moment, or I didn't mean to
yeah,
cut you off, but
With George. I mean,
George.
that was like hearing that he most of the experts at the time thought he was a Division III college player. And I could see, I was also watching Tobias Harris the same year because Tobias was at Dix Hills. He was pretty close to George. George was averaging 37 a game. Tobias was averaging like 32. And everybody knew Tobias was a Division I athlete, but nobody felt George was. And
Mm,
so seeing that and then seeing him at Manhattan just absolutely dominate the first when he got in,
sure.
like I said, that enabled me to recognize, okay, I can really have conviction when I see something on the basketball court. Before that, I would have no idea if George went and flopped. I would have said, you know what, these guys were right. He's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that this kid reminded me of Rondo and that he was going to be just fine, and it turned out that he was. And I've really carved a niche from there in like finding guys. The guys we've had in the NBA were not lottery guys. They were guys that we found, and we told the NBA these guys can play. And sure enough, when they got the opportunity, they did.
Okay. What did you? Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. What separates a great agent from like an average agent? Would you say?
Hard work. Okay, you have to work. You have to. If you love this, it's not work. It's not even work. If you love it, it's 24/7 of especially this time of year. I mean, I'm telling you, like around summer league, when you get a couple weeks before summer league and a couple weeks after when all the signings happen,
Mm-hmm.
if you're not ready to be up around the clock, you're not going to make it. But you do have to work really hard. You have to network. You have to go to these events. You have to be at summer league. You have to go to Portsmouth. You have to go to the G League showcase. These different events where all of the NBA comes in, that's where you make the connections.
Sure.
And so, what separates a good agent from a great agent? Again, you have to work. You have to have the ability to promote. You have to understand what you're looking at. You have to know basketball. If you don't know if you're just a guy trying to promote a player and you can't talk about the fit and the role and what makes a player unique and how he would deliver value in a team situation. If you can't articulate that, you're behind the eight ball.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you have to be able to work. You have to be able to know the game. You really have to network and, like I say, build your network with the teams to where when you call them, they say, "Hey, BJ's calling. He's got a guy. I got to take
Mm-hmm.
this call and at least see what he's talking about."
Yeah. See what he's saying. How do you know if you're gonna represent a player, or how does that kind of work? Like, what is the process of like becoming an NBA agent, and how do you like? What is like the initial like? Oh, you're my agent now. Is it a contract? Is it like how is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
process?
You sign a player agent contract with the NBA, and you also do one with FIBA, so that if you do overseas stuff, you have both sides covered. Um, but yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process. I mean, I think there might be a test nowadays. You might have to take a test, and then pass that about different issues with the CBA. But and then you obviously have to pay dues every year. So they'll charge you to be part of the NBA Players Association. You have to pay annual dues as an agent, and that covers you when you're dealing with the contract process. So that if you ever have an issue, the Players Association is there to advocate for the players. So we work closely with them to protect the players when they're signing in the NBA. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. You just, like I said, you got to hustle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's seems very networking heavy almost. Very networking heavy.
The relationship dynamic in the beginning with the player is like, since you're doing a business podcast here, I relate it a lot of times to real estate because when you have a real estate broker and they sit down with a prospective client and that wants to sell their house,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the guy brings you in, he says, I want $1 million for my house. And the real estate agent says, but your house is worth 650K.
Sure.
And he says, no, my house is worth $1 million. You don't understand. I put in a new bathroom. I did this. I did that. And the real estate agent says, no, I'm telling you, the house next door sold for 600. The one next door sold for 675. They got a little more. They got one extra bedroom. Based on everything I'm seeing here and my expertise, I could sell your house for 650. And the guy says, no, I want $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, that's never going to work.
Yeah.
And I relate that because there's no reason for that real estate agent, if he knows he can't get $1 million, don't take the job.
Sure.
And I relate that to the player dynamic because it's kind of the same thing. If you get engaged with a player and he thinks he's going to sign an NBA max contract, and you know the guy's going to struggle just to get an Exhibit 10, you got a
Yeah.
big problem, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really the big thing is having those conversations up front and setting expectations.
Yeah, so a lot of players, or I guess a lot of viewers, I should say, see basketball kind of like on the court and kind of how they're performing, but like never really understand or see like what's happening behind the scenes. So what does like an NBA agent actually do that most like people don't see?
I mean, we got to watch a ton of games. You got to watch all your games. You got to. I mean, you see, it's work. But that's work. You have to watch your games. You have to know how your players play. You have to watch other players and understand how they're playing and how it relates to your player. Like, is this guy moving ahead of my guy because he's playing well, and realistically, he's going after the same contract. There's only three two-way contracts for each team, right? So
Sure,
you
wow.
really have to watch it and consume it all. That's a huge part of our day. And then obviously the networking, the marketing. Bear with me one second here.
You're
Sorry.
good. No worries.
Let me I put my ringer off. The marketing is a huge part of it. And that is talking to teams in the NBA, talking to teams overseas, making sure that they have our player information, and that when they're making a decision, our players are on the short list of consideration. So I mean that's it. And then once the team wants a player, then obviously there's a contract process that we have to negotiate and make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, and then the guys go off and play in the fall, and we watch them again.
Sure. Wow. So there's only three two-way contracts between, I imagine, the G League or some overseas team to the NBA per team.
Yes,
Wow, I didn't
yes,
know that.
and not all of those guys play in the NBA, so it's very important if you do take a two-way that you're not just pigeonholed in the G League. You have to be able to play in the NBA and demonstrate your value. And so it's very difficult to get the two-way, and you want to really make sure that you're in the right situation, so you're not stuck in the G League.
How involved are agents like beyond career planning for their or beyond contracts, I should say, when it comes to players?
It all depends. I mean, some guys we talk to every day, and we are very look. The way we operate our agency, we're very close with our guys. I mean, we take a real family approach, and I don't throw that around lightly. We're very close with our guys, so we talk to our guys a lot. But there's some guys that are kind of on their own, and once they get their gig, like they maybe have their young family already. Like we don't talk to them every day, but we talk to them every few days and keep in touch. And so it all depends on the player and the level of engagement that he wants. But we handle all kinds of issues. I mean, there's from A to Z, man, and not just basketball. Guys come to us with different issues that come up in their lives, on the court, off the court, whatever the case. But we try to be here for our guys to help support them through whatever's going on.
So, what are like conversations with like athletes that you may have that the public would like never hear about?
Wow, what can I? I'm not sure what I could give you here. um, no, I mean, I think I don't think there's anything that people would find that crazy. I think that just like there are very real conversations that have to happen about where guys are. I think in the sports industry in general, like if I get back to like if you can't handle the truth, like if you can't handle unvarnished, constructive criticism and realistic feedback on where you are in the marketplace, you're not cut out for this. And some guys are not. They don't want to hear the bad news. They just want to hear that everything is great and they're sort of living a pipe dream. And that doesn't get anybody anywhere,
Sure.
because at the end of the day, this is a business show. We're in a business partnership. And so I think getting back to, just honesty is the best policy in both directions. And so I think to answer your question, like those are the tough conversations that maybe people think in other businesses, maybe a little more, maybe some more punches are pulled, okay? Because it's just the nature of the business. But in this business, you have to be prepared to hear, you know, the honest to God truth.
When it comes to like working with young athletes, besides like their basketball ability, like what do you really focus on?
Personality is huge. Work ethic, personality, those are huge components. If they don't have that, they're not going to make it. You're talking about trying to make the NBA where there's 450, 500 guys on
Yeah.
planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not competing at a level in terms of your sleep and your diet and your entire regimen, you're not going to make it. And so you can tell in college, you start to get a feel for if a kid is going to translate from college and how they're working and how they're preparing. And so that's a huge thing is, I like to go to college games and I watch when no one else knows I'm watching, and see how they interact with their teammates and see how they interact with their coaches and other people that aren't as important. How do they treat the janitor? I want to know that. And the NBA wants to know that. They want good guys. They can't take a risk on bad guys unless you're, all NBA. You could be a bad guy. Other than that, you're not going to make it.
Sure. What I guess this kind of answer my follow up question, but like, what separates athletes who have talent from athletes who are like truly prepared for like a professional level?
Eating, your diet, your sleep cycle, your workout regimen. What are you working out? What are you working on? I think a lot of guys spend a lot of time working, but it's not focused enough on the things that they need to do on the court. They do a lot of different stuff, maybe to expand or to, but it's so I think just a hyper focus on the things that you need to get better at in terms of your training, and then you got to be really talented, man. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, that's true. Is there like, is there certain things that you think like young athletes like underestimate that like make a huge impact, but they don't necessarily do?
I think that a lot of athletes don't understand supply and demand, basic economics 101. They don't want to hear that there's a huge supply and there's a short demand. Like there's a million guys trying to get the 500 spots.
Yeah.
And so the
Yeah.
odds are just no matter how good you are,
Mm-hmm.
the deck is stacked. And guys don't want to hear that. Oh, I'm better than okay, you're better than the next guy. But
Mm-hmm.
are you better than Robert Ory? Are you better than Clarence Witherspoon?
Sure.
Are you better than Richard Dumas. I'm throwing
Just
I'm throwing some
names.
old names at you, but
Sure.
that's the point. And these guys are many of them are not.
Yeah. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see young athletes make when preparing for like professional basketball?
So two things. One, the lack of the prep that we talked about, the lack of the right type of regimen, but also thinking you're ahead of where you are. There are two separate pieces to this. There's your talent, and then there's your resume. And a lot of times your talent will be outweigh your resume. In other words, we can see how talented you are, but you haven't had the production yet at a high level. And so no matter how talented you are, teams are going to be reluctant maybe to take a risk on potential or a prospect. I mean, the NBA does. That's how they do everything. But, you're talking about overseas, let's say. Teams are less likely to take a risk on a guy just based on talent. So I think a lot of guys make the mistake of like, okay, where's my talent versus where's my resume? And my expectation of what I should be making based on my talent when it's based on my resume.
Sure. Okay. Do you think that athletes tend to focus too much on their talent than rather like their like development?
No, I don't think so. I think most of these guys love the game. I think they work really hard at it. I think we're all trying to get to the same place, and it's just a fact of life that there are only so many spots. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why you have the G League for guys that are trying to crack it. And that's why you have overseas for guys to make a lot of money while they're not in the NBA, hopefully, and also create a pathway where they can come back to the NBA. Going to Europe, I tell guys all the time, it's not a fork in the road. It's really like a two-pronged strategy where guys come to the NBA from Europe all the time. I mean, one guy just signed with the Nuggets the other day. And
Yeah.
so,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't come from the G League where it's tougher. It's
Sure.
tougher, and so when you're in Europe and you're first team all defense in the Euro League, like now that kid is coming to the NBA negotiating from a position of strength, and that's very different than maybe being on a G League contract or an Exhibit 10 or that type of thing.
Sure. What advice would you give a high school or a college athlete that is to try to prepare themselves for success and making it, I guess, to the NBA?
Be a really good person. Be a good person to everybody. Really, it'll show up. If you're not, somebody's going to find out somewhere, and if and you just don't need that stuff working against you, and it's just the right thing to do to treat people with respect the way you want to be treated. Work really really hard. You're either ascending or you're descending, and you want to be ascending. And so that means that every year you want to continue to get better and expand your game and never settle. And so I think if guys do that, then they'll be successful wherever they're meant to land. If they're good people and they work hard and get the most out of what they have, they're going to reach their ceiling wherever that is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What is something you wish every young athlete understood earlier? Or just kind of people that athletes you're trying to sign or work with?
Decision making is really important. I think the people you have around you, if you have people that are around you that you trust, that know what they're doing and understand the business, I think that's really important. I think the other mistake guys make a lot of times, early in their European career, they take a few extra dollars to go to maybe the wrong situation. Where when the if they had taken a few dollars less, for example, they could start out. So instead of taking 75 the first rookie year, in the right spot, they took 90, but they didn't play.
Mm, I
They didn't
see.
play, and so now they go from 90 to 60 in their second year. And the kid that took 75 and he had the right role, he jumped from 75 to 250.
I
That's the
see.
thing that guys don't understand. You have to go to the right spot where you can have production and continue to climb the ladder.
Yeah, almost like you have to have the right production for almost like playing time essentially,
Of
right?
course.
Because you have
Of
to
course.
prove your talent. I
Of
imagine
course.
that's what you're trying to cover there.
Of course. Of
Uh,
course.
so NIL has like completely changed the landscape of college athletes, right? From your
Yeah.
perspective, how has NIL changed athletic representation?
It's incredible because everybody look, they're going to regulate it right now. It's like the wild wild west. They're going to regulate it right now. Anybody can be an agent. Nobody's really certified to do NIL, and guys are taking payments left and right. They're charging kids up to 20%, which is really unethical. And like I say, it's going to be regulated. I'm sure at some point down to like an industry standard of 5%, let's say. But it's interesting because you have a lot of guys that are now representing guys in college, and they're trying to keep them through the whole life cycle when they become a pro.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm noticing that a lot of players that were dealing with agents on the NIL stuff that maybe took too big a piece of the pizza pie or didn't really give them the service that they deserved in college, they're changing agents as soon as they go pro.
Oh, okay.
So I think you have to be really careful about what you're doing in the NIL space and making sure that you're delivering value and you're delivering the same level of service that you are on the pro side.
What do you think the advantages of NIL are and kind of the disadvantages? Because I think there's kind of two sides of the sword.
I mean, guys should be, in my opinion, guys should be able to make whatever they can. It's the United States of America. They should be able to make as much as they possibly can. But it's a pro sport. I mean, that's what it is. I know they like to dress it up and market it still as college or amateur or whatever, but it's a pro sport, and it's going to be just like the other major pro sports that the teams that spend the most money are going to end up in the Sweet 16 every year, and
Sure.
that's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
But there's no putting that genie back in the bottle, you know.
What should athletes understand about managing their brand and finances?
Another good question. Well, each guy is unique, and so every player's brand is obviously unto themselves. How what they want to promote about themselves, about their character, about their personality. Finding different brands that align with their values. Okay. Um, and then as far as finances, I mean, I think that's hugely important. I mean, guys are there was a Sports Illustrated report years ago that almost 70% of NBA players go bankrupt within a couple years.
Yeah.
And we were really astonished to hear that. And so what we've done is we've made sure our guys are connected with an investment bank, a prominent global investment bank that they put away something, a little something each paycheck, and
Mm-hmm.
they're growing their investment for the future and making sure that they're budgeting properly so that you don't find yourself having one of those horror stories.
Yeah. With the NIL deal, I like to speak on this a little bit. I read something about this isn't football, but I'm wondering if you're seeing this too. Is what they've seen in football is what's happening is kids are tending to go to the transfer portal more often
Oh
because they're
yeah,
trying to get a bigger paycheck from a school. Do you
of
see
course,
that? And it's
of
kind of
course.
and it, yeah, have you been seeing that? And it kind of like hinders people have been saying it hinders their development and like it will slow them down because they keep switching schools, but they're not really
Absolutely.
playing.
Absolutely, and they're probably they could be playing one position in one place based on a need in another position, but they don't care because it's just about chasing the money at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think, I mean, look, everybody's doing it, so I don't think the league holds it against guys, but I do think the league will look at a guy who's transferred 5 times and say, wait a minute, like this, can we trust this guy?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a fair question. I mean, but I think yes, there's a ton of movement, and with all the money that's out there, like, of course that's going to happen until they put in some rules that you can only move 1 or 2 times, or you may have to sit out again.
Mm-hmm.
You used to have to sit out.
Sure. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was the
Yeah.
reason why guys wouldn't transfer because they didn't want to waste a year where they couldn't play.
Mm-hmm.
But now you could transfer right away. So maybe they implement back some rules like that make it a little more prohibitive for guys. But right now, like I said, it's the wild, wild west.
Yeah. I've been really noticing that in sports. Um, what are kind of just like current NBA right now? What do you think? Like, I feel like the issue with the NBA right now is it's just getting softer. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow. Don't get me started, dude.
Like,
Softer physically.
oh yeah, like there's flopping
Dude,
everywhere. Dude, you
listen,
touch a guy, there's a
I
foul.
grew up
Like
watching the 90s Knicks, okay? I grew up before that. I mean, I was in the 80s Knicks. Late 70s, early 80s was my introduction to the Knicks. That's why this championship is crazy. But the 90s Knicks in particular, Pat Riley and Ewing and Starks and Mason and Oakley and Anthony Bonner and Derek Harper and all of these guys that would just come in, and it was a physical bloodbath. I mean, they used to beat each other, the Pacers, the Pistons, the Bulls, the Knicks, even the Cavs, the Brad Daugherty, Mark Price, Ron Harper, Larry Nance, Cavs, Craig Elo, those Cavs. I mean, these guys, it was so physical.
mhm.
Maybe the Cavs were a little bit more finesse. They were trying to score with Mark Price, but that East was so physical, okay? And compared to what it is now. And what's interesting is that a lot of those guys from the 80s, Rick Carlisle coaches the Pacers. Danny Ainge is still running the Jazz. These were the guys.
Mhm.
And so now they're looking at this newer crop, like you said, is it softer?
Yeah.
And they're like, man, we need more force. We need more physicality.
Yeah.
The guys that understand that can play with force and play with physicality right now, those are the guys on the court. If you can't do that, um, you can't get on the court. But as far as what they used to do, how they literally used like guys would punch each other in the face, and
Yeah.
there was no whistles. Like it would just be play on, and really, and
Yeah.
Bird would punch Lane Beer, and Lane Beer would punch Rodman, and Rodman would punch. I mean, it was crazy, and nobody would get ejected. It was just part of the so it was a totally different game back then. But um, the other part of it, which is huge, which I think plays into the lack of physicality now, is the specialization. Everything is so specialized right now to where you either shoot the three, or you're at the rim.
Yeah.
And when I
True.
when I'm talking about Jordan and Kobe and even Vince and McGrady and those guys. But even when you look at who's winning now, it's guys that can mid range.
True.
SGA, Jokic, Kawhi.
Yeah.
When things close down in the playoffs, you have to be able to score in the mid range and find other ways. But during the regular season, when it's just threes, there's no physicality with
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I think I gave you a long answer. The specialization
Mhm.
plays into the lack of the physicality. But I would love for them to get back to the 80s, early 90s stuff because, man, that was like even Heat, like the Heat, when Riley went to the Heat and the Heat had Tim Hardaway and Cycli and the kid from Minnesota, man. Oh my God, the shooter, uh, Leonard, Sean Leonard. I mean, but the Knicks and Heat would kill each other
Sure.
physically.
Yeah.
Alonzo Mourning and Ewing would fight all the time. So it was a totally different game, and but I miss it, man. I miss it. I'll be honest with you. I think the product, and I think Adam knows this. Like he's got to do something with the product. The tanking is a whole separate issue.
Yeah.
That also
Yeah.
that's a competitive issue. So they got some things that they really need to address.
Yeah, I just think one thing that I've seen that's different from just even like me growing up was there's less mid ranges. Everything's a 3-pointer or you're
You're
shooting a
not
layup.
allowed unless you're Kawhi. You're not allowed. That's
Yeah.
the thing. So they don't let the other guys do that. There's there's certain shots you're allowed to take
Mhm.
if you're the 12th, 13th, 14th guy coming off the bench. You don't have a creative license.
Yeah. I also miss kind of the rivalries in NBA a lot. Feel like everyone's so friendly to each other now. like back then, like I didn't live through this, but like I'll see TV or stuff about it, like Magic and Bird hated each other.
And
Like they
it was
hated
just
each other.
it was just competitive. It was just competition.
Yeah.
It was just about the sheer competition. They did hate each other. Um, it's a lot of money now. Guys have a lot of money, and they just are not as inclined. I mean, you're not going to risk. They're not going to get in a fight and risk, what could
Yeah.
potentially happen to them. It's
Mhm.
just too much risk. Where back in the day, guys were just. I mean, guys were getting jobs during the summer to supplement. And so it was just a different mindset of, hey, if we're gonna throw punches, like, okay, I got nothing to lose.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's true. There's a ton more money in the NBA than there was back then. Um, so it's not just the money game is not only about like achieving like basketball success, but also like knowing how to like build something to sustainable. Like you mentioned, majority of athletes go broke.
Yeah,
What is one financial lesson that every athlete should learn?
you have to budget. You have to have a plan. It's like anything else. You have a plan for your on-court career. You have to have a plan for financial. You have to budget every month. You know what's coming in, you know what you can spend, and you know what you have to put away. You have to be very smart with your investments. You want to be with people that are trustworthy. We aligned with Morgan Stanley, one of the top global investment banks. There are a lot of horror stories with players that have aligned with sort of individual brokers that are not
Mm,
part of a big corporation. And some of those guys are very good, but some of them have had real issues where guys have had all their money stolen from them. So
yeah.
you have to be with trustworthy people. You have to have a really good plan in terms of your budget and your investment. And then you have to diversify. You never want to put all of your eggs in one basket. You want to look at mutual funds. You want to look at you never want to put all your money into one particular stock. I don't even care if it's Apple or any of the blue chips. They go up, they go down. You
Mm-hmm.
want to have a diverse portfolio of different stocks that will grow over time, 8, 10, 12, 15% a year. And if you start early, um, you'll be in a really, really good spot by the time you're 35, 40 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't know, it always surprises me when they go broke because the money they have nowadays, I mean,
They spend.
it's
They spend too much. They just spend.
they just spend
That's the
it like
problem. That's
crazy.
right. That's right.
When they first receive like their first significant income, um what do you see like the first mistake they make? Their first.
Yeah, I mean, again, but not budgeting properly.
Mhm.
Spending too much that they don't have. That's the biggest mistake. You're gonna buy your mother a house. That's a huge hit. You're gonna buy a car. That's a huge hit. It doesn't all come in at once. When you sign,
Yeah.
you could sign some contract over 3 or 4 years. You're not getting all that money up front. So you have to be really careful of how you budget and how you spend the money.
When it comes to an NBA agent, how do you get paid? Is it through their contract then?
Yes,
So you
yes.
get a
In the
percentage,
NBA,
a
we get either
contingency?
2% we get 2% if they're slotted into a spot, and we get 4% if we can negotiate something above the veteran minimum, which is not huge, but if you can get a really big NBA contract, you can do well. Making money off the 2 ways and the 10 days is not easy as an agent.
Mm,
In Europe, you get 10% of the deal paid to you by the club. So it's a little bit different. It depends again on what the NBA deal looks like and what the Europe deal looks like. Um, so it's different on both sides.
okay. So I saw something that Gillis Arenas was describing on like his podcast, where he he took out all these loans before he got drafted, and then when he got drafted his first check went to his agent. So have you ever like dealt with a player who like went broke or who couldn't like pay you and
Oh,
like
because you took out loans
yeah,
leading up to it. Yeah,
yeah,
guys do that. Guys, and there are firms out there that will loan you the money against your contract, and guys will take that up front, and then they have to pay interest on the back end. But yeah, guys do that all the time because they need cash, especially before NIL. I mean, Gilbert got NIL, man. I don't even know what Gilbert would have got,
Oh,
but he didn't get, well, listen, Gilbert got something, but
yeah.
that's right up. But officially, he didn't get anything. So Gilbert comes out, he's got nothing, and this is what happens. You take a loan from your agent.
Sure. How do you kind of deal with that situation? Like, have you ever given out a loan, and like, have you ever done
Yeah, we
that?
did. We try not to. I mean, we did in the beginning. It's very touchy. It's very difficult. It's not the business we're in. We're not. There are firms that specialize in that, and so typically what we'll do is bring in a third party that will loan the player something, and in
Mm-hmm.
exchange, they're going to take a little piece of what the player makes over time. That's kind of how those structures work. But we try to stay away from that since we got started. It gets a little messy. Anytime you try to collect money back from players, it's just something that we would just rather watch basketball and help them get a really good job.
Mm-hmm. How much can an agent make in a year?
I mean, I don't know. Guys make millions of dollars.
Oh,
Not me.
really? Not you?
No, I mean, you want to see my W-2? No, I mean, look, guys do really well. It's but the guys that have the top guys, um, they do really really well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's actually a larger number than I expected.
I mean, some of the biggest agencies do tens or hundreds of millions. I mean, go look at
Really? Wow.
CAA. Yeah, go look at CAA or IMG or
Wow.
Wasserman or one of these huge agencies. They're huge corporations, and so they not only represent athletes, but they represent entertainers and all kinds. I mean, they're doing. I don't know what CAA did last year. You could probably chat GPT it, but it's probably a lot more than you'd realize.
Have you ever kind of switching topics here a little bit. Have you ever dealt with a player who has like an addiction or like constantly has like anger issues, gets suspended, and like how do you deal with those instances?
No, but I think that no, I never dealt with that. I mean, we had a couple guys back in the day that I think had some issues, different issues that are. I mean, for example, like marijuana right now is not an issue. They don't test for it, but they used to test for it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of guys smoke, and frankly, the NBA doesn't care. They would rather the guys smoke than drink. When you drink, you get into trouble, and everybody was getting into trouble. So, but back in the day when they were testing, I think that that's something that could hold the guy back. That if they would test positive, they might not get a call from the G League, let's say. So those were some of the real world issues that you had to deal with.
How do you build like a player's future, I guess beyond playing basketball?
It's not for me. Like, what do they want to do, right? What do they want to do after basketball? And we have those conversations with guys as they start to get to the tail end of their career, start to think about what they're going to do next and plan and invest um those are the types of conversations that you start to have.
Can I just ask you one more quick question? Just one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, please.
so for someone listening who wants to work in sports, whether as an agent, executive, or in another role, what advice would you give them?
Again, you have to work really hard. If you don't love it, you're not going to work hard. Like if you really love something, it doesn't feel like work, and you're incentivized all the time. And if you don't feel like that, you're probably not going to be successful. And so um, I would just say, especially early on, if you have an opportunity to explore different things and try different industries, find what you really love so that you can dig into it and and become an expert. Really become an expert. If you know your business and you can add value to the people you're talking to, whether you have certain information that's helpful to them that they didn't know, okay? Um, you make yourself valuable, everyone will take your call, and it's a two-way street. I add value for you, you add value for me, and that's how agents and people in business in general are successful.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for giving me this kind of interview. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. I'm happy to do it, and that it's your first maiden voyage. I'm happy to be on here, and hopefully you can.
Sounds great. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate you.
All right, take care, Seth. Good to meet you.
Yep. Great to meet
All right, be
you.
well.